Hello. If you're currently experiencing symptoms connected with depression, anxiety, trauma, such as PTSD, then the easy to use and freely available self-help tools and concepts on this website should help you to start reducing the discomfort that you're currently experiencing. I'm Andrew Thomas, and I'm a practicing psychotherapist on the south coast of England. And I started to develop these tools and concepts back in 2014. And today they're being used by people across the world. They're people from all sorts of different backgrounds and cultures. And the reason why these tools and concepts have spread so widely is because they're easy to access. There's no jargon in them. You don't have to go on a training course to start using them in your own life. And what they do initially is help you develop a new type of self-awareness, one that includes your whole brain and body. And then we move on to start to develop resources or improve existing resources that you might have within you and around you to reduce the discomfort that you're currently experiencing. And even more importantly to me is to develop more resilience, more strength to deal with the issues and problems that we all face from time to time in our lives. So why don't we go and have a look at the rainbow map, which is the first tool that I developed back in 2014. And I think you'll start to see very quickly how easy that would be to use and start applying in your own life. So let's go over and have a look at a rainbow map. To view a rainbow map, go to the rainbow mapping website, click on the menu button, and then you go to the download print option. And if you click on that, you'll see a list of resources. Let's have a look at the standard rainbow map. And as you can see, it's a very colourful one-page document. The colours of the rainbow, surprise, 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 split into 4 columns: your emotions, your thoughts, your sensations, and your behaviours. And another column, your trigger cycle, which I'll come back to in a minute. And along this side of the rainbow map, you can see untriggered, triggering up, and triggering down. So hopefully you are getting the impression there's no jargon on here. All the words are typically day-to-day that most people would use in one form or another. So the rainbow map gives us an opportunity to really understand what it's like to be us in terms of your emotions, your thoughts, your sensations, and your behaviors. And you can just use it as a notepad initially to start to develop an expertise and a capacity to notice your emotions separately to your thoughts, separately to your sensations and your behaviors. And once you've started to develop that expertise to be aware of those separately, that then opens up opportunities to start developing resources that will reduce the speed with which you trigger and the intensity and the duration of that experience. So first of all, what would it be like to be you when you're in your okay place, that green band? Some people never experience that very much, but the green band can still be useful for them to start to form a view of what it might be like for them. But most of us, at some part of our lives, feel okay, perhaps when that's watching sport or socializing. You may notice you've got a calm and steady voice then. Perhaps you're cooking when you're in that okay place. What are your emotions like? What are your thoughts like? Styles of thinking and typical thoughts. So a style of thinking might be you're open-minded or optimistic, and a typical thought might be let's do that again or good idea. And then your sensations. A lot of people don't notice much about their bodies when they're in an okay place. Some people do. Maybe you notice you've got relaxed shoulders. And then if you're a person that triggers up initially, i.e. you go into fight flight, what are the emotions you experience just as you're starting to trigger up? Maybe you get a bit angry or anxious or a bit frustrated. Your styles of thinking change from being open-minded to critical of others. And a typical thought might starting to be generated by your reactive brain. This is starting to get more automatic. No one cares. Why bother? And then you can note down what types of sensations you might experience just as you're starting to trigger up. Maybe your mouth starts to get dry, or your throat tightens up, or perhaps you have a clenching jaw. And then looking at behaviors, these are things that the outside world might notice about you. Perhaps you post more on Facebook, you eat faster, maybe you have a stomach upset, your voice gets louder or higher. Some people trigger straight down, some people go up into fight, flight, and then down. So looking at this lower area, what's it like to be you as you go down? Perhaps you feel ashamed or sad or desperate in terms of your emotions, and thoughts different perhaps from in the fight, flight. Instead of being critical of others, maybe you're self-critical, or your style of thinking is untrusting or a little bit paranoid. And your typical thoughts might be, I'm useless, or no one likes me. They'll be different for different people. I'm just showing you these as examples. And in terms of sensations, perhaps you notice your shoulders slumping, or you have an unsettled stomach, or you feel weak. And then behaviors, disrupted sleep, you drink more, constipation, stop seeing friends, perhaps you eat maybe fatty foods. It can be useful to go even higher and start to form an impression of what it's like to be you at those higher levels or the lower levels. But often it's all you need to do is get an impression of what it's like to be you in these transitional areas, because at those places you can actually do something about it. You've still got that reflective capacity and you can activate useful resources. And then that brings us on to the trigger cycle. And here we can form an impression and draw a picture effectively of what it's like to be us as we trigger, in this case, initially upward. How long does it take you to start triggering? And then once you get up much above the yellow zone into the orange and red, it's very common to have to transition and experience feeling somewhat sad and dejected before you finally recover back to an okay place. And it can be very useful to start to get an understanding of how long that cycle takes you. And that might vary in different situations. And then coming back to this area here, what's your trigger flag? Well, maybe the first thing you notice is a clenching jaw. And that can become a very useful piece of self-awareness for you, which you could write down here. So if you start to think that that's an accurate first sign of your triggering, if you start to use that as your trigger flag, that will help you activate resources much earlier than you otherwise could do. So you can catch yourself going up or down much earlier, and then start to activate resources, perhaps just massaging your jaw, or starting to activate memories where you bring forth memories where people did care about you. So rather than just being subject to the automatic memories that sort of take away from your happiness or your contentment, you can start to activate and bring forth alternative views that challenge what's happening to you. And the other modules that you can go to, the other steps in this self-help approach, really go into much greater depth about how you can use the rainbow map to generate that self-awareness and then develop resources. Now, if you can't print out a rainbow map, then you can just draw one. And here's an example. You don't even need to color it in. Just get the columns and get the rows, and then you can use it as that note-taking tool. So maybe at certain times of the day or at the end of the day, you can reflect on what happened to you during the day and then write the notes down in terms of your emotions, thoughts, sensations, behaviors, and maybe jot down if you've noticed any trigger cycles. So the first stage is to get that expertise in noticing yourself in terms of these different areas, and then start to use that to focus in and develop resources that are going to help you reduce the intensity and the duration of your discomfort. Well, hopefully that's given you a flavour of one of the tools on the Rainbow Mapping website, that you've seen that it's accessible, easy to use. There's no real jargon on it. And in the next module, following on from this one in connection with the rainbow map, I actually take you through a rainbow map. So you pick on something that's happening in your life that's generating some discomfort, preferably not something that's really causing you immense problems, but something that is an issue to you, and that you can have a first go through the rainbow map just to see what it's like to look into that through the lens, if you want to say it like that, or I'm saying it like that, of the rainbow map. So if you can print one out so you can note down on it, that would be helpful. If not, you can draw one as I just showed you. And I'll take you through that in a step-by-step way. And that will start to build that foundation of developing that new type of self-awareness, one that you can then really use to build resources to help yourself reduce the intensity and the discomfort that you're currently experiencing. So thanks a lot for giving me the time today and having a look at a rainbow map with me.